You slowly open your eyes to a dim, flickering light. It's early morning, or at least it feels like it, though time has lost its meaning these days. Your blanket of rough-spun wool feels damp against your skin, and you pull it up just a bit, taking in the silence. But silence here is never empty. It carries the weight of countless unspoken fears. You sit up, your joints a bit stiff, and notice the stone wall beside you. Cold, unyielding, silent as a stone face. In your mind, you remember how those same walls once felt comforting, strong enough to shield you from the chaos outside. Now they serve only as a reminder of how close danger has grown. A faint tapping reaches your ears, rhythmic and measured. Is someone walking by? Or is it the drip of water from a crack in the ceiling? You hold your breath, listening. The sound echoes, almost like a heartbeat, slow and steady, yet each beat sends a shiver through you. You swing your legs over the edge of the wooden pallet you've been sleeping on. The rough planks creak, as if protesting your movement after days of neglect. Your feet touch the cold floor, and for a moment you wonder if it's mud or something more unsettling. The memory of yesterday's walk through the courtyard flashes before your eyes. Footprints in the muck, some belonging to the living, others to those who no longer breathe. You stand and notice the candle in the corner, its flame dancing with a strange softness, as though reluctant to remain alive. You shuffle forward and gently cup your hands around it, feeling warmth seep into your fingers. You close your eyes and draw in a slow breath, hoping the fragile glow will hold on a little longer, just long enough to guide you through another day. Then, as you open your eyes, the first distant cry drifts in, a soft, broken sound that makes your chest tighten. It's a reminder. Fear is no longer a visitor here. It's become a companion. As you step out into the courtyard, the morning mist still clings to the air, cool against your cheeks. The ground beneath your boots is churned earth and straw, damp from last night's rain. Each footfall sinks just a little, the soft squelch reminding you of the layers of mud made heavier by the knowledge of who has walked here before. You pause beside a low wooden fence, its beams warped by moisture. Beyond it, a line of makeshift beds, straw mattresses laid on hard boards, holds those too weak to stand. Their breaths come slow and shallow, like distant ocean waves lapping against a distant shore. A thin cloth is draped over one sleeper. You hesitate before lifting a corner, revealing a pale face and closed eyes that hold no dreams. Turning away, you notice the hushed murmur of voices near the latrine hut. Two villagers exchange a bowl of thin gruel, oatmeal steeped in water, barely more than a paste. The server's arm trembles, but the recipient accepts the bowl without words, as if understanding each other's sorrow lies in shared silence. You watch the steam rise, curling upward in lazy spirals before dissipating into the gray sky. A faint clang draws your attention to the makeshift forge at the far end of the courtyard. A blacksmith, face stained with sweat and ash, lifts a metal rod from glowing coals. Sparks drift upward like fireflies caught in a reluctant breeze. You imagine reaching out to touch the dancing embers, but the heat keeps you at bay, preserving the fragile distance between you and the ever-present danger. The air carries a mixture of scents, damp straw, boiling grain, and beneath it all, the unmistakable undercurrent of sickness. It wraps around you, a cloak heavier than any woolen mantle. You inhale, feeling the weight of it settle in your lungs, and then exhale slowly, as if letting go of a memory you can't quite hold. A child's soft sob breaks the rhythm of your breath. You look to see a small figure curled beneath a threadbare blanket, clutching a wooden toy sword, once a symbol of playful dreams, now silent and still. You kneel, careful not to disturb the fragile straw beneath you, and place a gentle hand on the child's shoulder. No words pass between you, but in that touch lies a shared acknowledgement that life here is measured not in days, but in moments of fleeting comfort. You rise, brushing straw from your coat, and continue toward the wooden gate that marks the edge of the quarantine. Beyond it, the world carries on unaware. Here, within these walls, each breath is a quiet triumph, and every step a careful negotiation with fear. You pause at the entrance to what was once a bustling market lane, now fallen silent except for the occasional drip of water from a broken gutter. Your boots crunch over discarded wooden carts and stray straw, and as you step closer, a heavy aroma envelops you, an almost tangible mist of rot and decay. It drapes around your shoulders like a wet cloak, and you find yourself taking shallow breaths, each inhale reminding you that life and death are entwined here. The stalls that once displayed vibrant fabrics and fresh produce are empty or overturned. A length of cloth once dyed bright red now hangs limp and streaked with mud, fluttering in the faint breeze. You run a finger along its edge, feeling the rough weave beneath your skin, a silent echo of happier days. The wind carries the distant rumble of carts passing by beyond the wall, a world oblivious to the suffering within these boundaries. You move forward, guided by the scent. A row of barrels, half buried in muck, spills sticky, dark liquid onto the ground. The air grows heavier, richer in its brutal complexity. Sweet ferment from spilled wine melding with the sour tang of decomposing flesh. You hesitate, heart fluttering in your ribs, then steel yourself. This is part of the story you must witness, the hidden truth behind crackling hearths and bustling taverns. Ahead, a pile of wooden boards forms a crude barricade. Between the gaps you catch sight of bodies, some wrapped in coarse burlap, others laid bare, their limbs at odd angles. A sluggish fly circles aimlessly above, tracing a path through the dense air. You close your eyes for a moment, focusing on the sound of your own breathing, trying to hold on to a thread of calm. When you open them again, you take a slow step forward. Your hands clench at your sides, knuckles whitening against the coarse wool of your sleeves. You reach out to touch one of the boards, its surface splintered and grimy. The rough grain scrapes your fingertips, grounding you in this moment. A soft groan drifts from beneath the pile, perhaps an animal caught or a soul still clinging to life. Your chest tightens, but you force yourself not to look, redirecting your attention to the distant horizon, where muted light seeps through low-hanging clouds. Each movement is deliberate, mindful, as though you're navigating an ancient ritual. You inhale again, this time focusing on the less oppressive notes in the air. Faint hints of lavender tossed into a bucket of clean water, placed by a compassionate hand at the edge of a doorway. It's a gesture of hope, however small, rising like a tender note amidst the background hum of despair. You continue past the barricade, each step an exercise in quiet determination. In this place, among the scents that threaten to overwhelm, you move forward with a steady heart, bearing witness to a world fractured by unseen forces. And in doing so, you remind yourself, though fear lingers in every corner, the gentle act of observing, of truly seeing, can be an act of resistance, a slow yet unwavering promise that these moments, no matter how dark, will not be forgotten. You follow a narrow alley paved with uneven stones, each slab bearing the imprint of countless feet, soldiers marching, children scampering, traders hurrying through better days. Now the alley holds only the hush of absence. At its end, a small wooden door marked with a faded mortar and pestle sign hangs ajar, inviting you into the dim interior of the apothecary's shop. Inside, shafts of pale light slip through grimy windows, illuminating rows of ceramic jars and wooden boxes lining the walls. Each container bears a simple label inscribed in looping ink. Comfrey, wormwood, marigold. The faded script trembles slightly, as though the letters themselves share your weariness. You inhale, drawing in the mingled scents of dried herbs and old vinegar. There's a crisp undertone of time, a faint sweetness of rose petals long past their bloom, and somewhere beneath it all, the lingering trace of decay. It's an odd comfort, this blend, like the memory of laughter in an empty hall. A narrow table stands at the center, scarred by years of steady use. Scattered across it are bundles of tied herbs, a copper mortar with blackened edges, and a single open parchment. You step closer and see the apothecary's delicate handwriting charting remedies for fever and swelling. Crush the bark of willow for a bitter tea. Infuse lavender in warm water to calm the restless. Your fingers hover over the parchment, hesitating before lifting a sprig of dried lavender. You cup it gently, breathing in its faded aroma. It carries hints of sunshine and summer breezes, echoes of a world that seemed so simple not long ago. Soft rustling draws your gaze to a low wooden shelf where a small glass vial rests in shadow. Inside, a pale yellow liquid swirls, catching the light in a lazy dance. The label reads, Elixir of Hope. You lift the vial, its glass cool against your palm, and turn it slowly, watching as the liquid shifts. A quiet promise that even here, amid the hush of sickness, someone still believed in healing. You place the vial back and close your eyes, letting the stillness wash over you. In this hushed sanctuary, the apothecary's whispered notes become a gentle lullaby, reminding you that care can bloom even in the darkest corners. With a soft breath, you step back into the alley, carrying the faint scent of lavender and the weight of knowledge, an unspoken pledge to honor those tiny acts of kindness, however fragile they may be. You follow the sound of gentle hammering to a small, open-fronted forge at the edge of the courtyard. A single window set high in the wall lets in pale daylight, illuminating floating motes of ash. The blacksmith stands with his back to you, shoulders steady, arms rising and falling in a measured, almost meditative pulse. Coals glow a dull orange in the hearth, breathing warmth that pushes back the morning chill. You draw closer and feel the heat brush your face, soft as a distant memory. The air smells of charred wood and melted iron, an earthy scent that anchors you. Each time the hammer meets the metal, there is a gentle reverberation, as if the forge itself were exhaling. You lean against a nearby post, hands tucked into the folds of your cloak, and watch. The blacksmith's hands are strong but precise, fingers wrapping around the handle with a sculptor's care. He lifts a glowing rod from the fire and places it on the anvil. The surface is worn smooth by countless blows, its edges rounded by time. You listen to each strike, a clear, soft tone that echoes in your chest. In that steady rhythm, you feel your heartbeat align, slowing its anxious pace. There is solace in repetition. Hammer, strike, lift, and return. Sparks drift upward in fleeting arcs, like fireflies dancing in slow motion, disappearing as quickly as they appear. On a low bench nearby, a small pile of half-forged nails and horseshoe fragments lies scattered. You imagine the journeys they once embarked on, clattering hooves on cobblestones, scaffolds lifting builders toward rooftops. Now they rest here, waiting to be shaped anew, reminders that even metal has its seasons of renewal. The blacksmith pauses, lifting a cup of cool water to his lips. You hear the soft swallow and the clink of the cup against the wooden rim. He sets it down without a word and turns back to his work, as though inviting you to remain in this quiet shared moment. You take a breath, exhale slowly, and let the gentle hammering lull your thoughts into a deeper calm. You approach the ancient well at the center of the courtyard, its moss-covered stones slick with dew. The wooden bucket hangs from a fraying rope, swaying gently in the still morning air. You pause a moment, listening to the hollow echo from its depths, a distant sound that feels as old as the stones themselves. Leaning forward, you grip the rope with both hands, feeling the rough fibers press into your palms. You pull slowly, each turn of the windlass deliberate and unhurried. The bucket descends with a soft creak, as if reluctant to disturb whatever secrets lie beneath the water's surface. You sense a slight tremor in your arms, a reminder that even this simple act takes effort when days blend into nights without rest. A faint plop signals the bucket's arrival. You let the rope slip through your fingers, guiding the bucket upward. When it breaks the surface, droplets cascade down the stone rim, falling in gentle arcs that catch the gray light. You draw it fully up and rest it on the edge, watching the dark liquid settle. You pause, considering the water's surface, so calm and still it seems almost like a mirror, yet too dark to reflect your face. A flicker of movement beneath the surface stirs your heart, sediment swirling, faint ripples spreading outward. You lift the bucket, holding it at eye level. The water's hue is a deep charcoal tinged with the slightest brown, an unspoken testament to the wells of fear and decay that surround you. Slowly, you lower the bucket until its lip kisses the rim, then tip it gently. The water pours into a nearby wooden basin, splashing softly, each drop a tiny percussion against the hollow wood. You bring the basin closer and inhale, the scent subtle but unsettling. Earth and damp stone mingled with that undercurrent of sickness you have come to know so well. You dip your fingers into the basin, letting the cool water swirl around them. The sensation is crisp, almost electric, a brief reminder of the world beyond these walls. Yet you know the water carries traces of all you have witnessed, the muddy footprints, the spilled ale, the shadowed remains that lie beyond the barricades. You hold your hand a moment longer, feeling the liquid slide over your skin, and then withdraw it slowly. With steady hands, you lift the basin and carry it back toward the shelter, each step measured and mindful. In this simple ritual, drawing water, observing its depth, touching its surface, you find a quiet affirmation that even here, in the darkest times, small acts of care and attention can become anchors, grounding you in the fragile breath of the present. As dusk settles, a pale glow from lanterns begins to dot the courtyard. You step quietly toward a low bench where a humble fire crackles, its embers glowing softly. Around it, several blankets are spread on the ground, each covering a person whose breath comes slow and labored. The air is cooler now, and wisps of steam rise from cupped hands that hold small bowls of broth. You kneel beside one figure, a woman whose head rests against a rough-hewn pillow. Her eyelids flutter, and you sense her dream is far away from this place. In the flickering light, her face appears almost serene, the lines of pain softened by the gentle dance of shadows. You gently place a damp cloth on her forehead, cool relief against her fevered skin, and feel the heat through the thin fabric. The hush around you is profound. Every exhale carries weight. Every soft groan becomes a hesitated note in a silent lullaby. You listen to the quiet chorus of breathing, the occasional sputter of coughs, and the distant chirp of crickets beyond the courtyard wall. It feels as though the world has narrowed to this one small circle of light and care. You reach next for a clay flask holding warm herbal tea, a soothing blend of chamomile and mint tinctured with a drop of honey. You lift it to the woman's lips. She drinks slowly, eyes half closed, nourishing herself with each gentle sip. You feel the fragility of life humming through that moment, so delicate it seems you might hold your breath and shatter it. Nearby, another caretaker shakes dried lavender into a small sachet and ties it closed. The scent drifts toward you, soft, floral, a whispered promise of calm. You tuck the sachet under the pillow of a slumbering child whose chest rises and falls in quiet rhythm. Even here, among the weight of sickness, these tiny gestures of comfort become sacred acts. Night deepens, and the lantern's glow dims further. The fire's crackle slows as wood gives way to glowing coals. You sit back on your heels, watching the soft pool of light fade into pockets of darkness. In that transition, you find a fragile peace, the knowledge that in the stillness of a long night, each moment of kindness, each cool cloth, each soothing sip, becomes a small triumph of light over shadow. You step into a narrow passage once used to store straw, now carpeted in a thin layer of coarse sand. The grains crunch softly under your boots, each footfall stirring up tiny dust clouds that drift lazily in the pale light. But beneath the sun-bleached tan, You notice a darker hue beginning to spread. Spots of red where blood has seeped into the sand, staining it in irregular patches. You pause, listening to the faint whisper of wind through a ragged banner above. The banner flutters gently, its tattered edges tracing delicate arcs in the air. Below, the sand holds its story. You stoop and let a handful sift through your fingers, gritty, cool, and tinged with the quiet heaviness of life lost. A single droplet glistens on your palm before falling back, leaving a tiny crater of dampness. In the corner of the passage, a wooden broom lies discarded. Its straw bristles are stiff with dried mud and flecks of red. You lift it and, with slow, deliberate strokes, begin to sweep a small area. Each movement lifts motes of sand into the air, which settle again like slow-falling snow. You watch the pattern form, clean sand revealing itself beneath, yet never quite untouched, as the droplets have seeped deeper than the surface. As you work, you notice a curved footprint, half erased by the breeze. The sole of a shoe, once sturdy, now seems fragile, the edge of the print softened by time. You trace its line with a fingertip, following the gentle curve as if reading an ancient script. Somewhere beyond the passage, muted voices speak in hushed tones, as though speaking too loudly might rouse unseen dangers. You pause your sweeping and inhale deeply. The mingled scent of dry earth, iron, and faint lavender, perhaps from the apothecary's sachets, reaches you. It feels almost comforting, a reminder that even amid decay, there are traces of care. You set the broom aside and press your hand to the cool stone wall, feeling the texture of chipped mortar beneath your palm. Standing upright again, you gaze at the sand. The bloodstains remain, but they seem less ominous now, transformed into part of the landscape's quiet tale. In this simple act of cleaning, of witnessing and tending to the ground itself, you find a fragile calm, an acknowledgement that even the smallest gestures, performed in stillness, can bring a measure of peace to a world weighed down by sorrow. You step into a deserted lane where cobblestones rise and fall beneath your boots like silent waves. Each stone bears the worn imprint of countless feet, farmers, merchants, children, all long gone. Your footsteps echo, slow and solitary, filling the hush with a quiet rhythm. A breeze stirs the ragged banners hanging from half-empty windows above. They twist gently, their faded colors whispering tales of festivals once celebrated here. You pause beneath one banner and listen. Somewhere, far away, a loose tile rattles against the roof, tapping out a hesitant melody. You inhale and hold the moment, letting the gentle sound settle your thoughts. In the distance, a wooden shutter creaks as it swings on its hinges, moved by the wind. The sound is soft, almost reluctant, like a door opening to reveal a memory. You follow it, drawn down the lane past shuttered shops and abandoned doorways. The air carries a blend of scents, damp moss growing between stones, a hint of wood smoke from a distant chimney, and beneath it all, the faintest trace of lavender from the apothecary's sachets tucked beneath doorframes. You crouch beside a pile of straw that once served as a makeshift seat. A stray curl of silk peeks out, a remnant of a merchant's scarf. Gingerly, you lift it and run your fingers along its worn pattern. Delicate vines woven with gold thread, now dulled by time. You tuck it into your coat pocket as if safeguarding a secret. Continuing on, you hear the faint drip of water, drops falling from a leaky gutter into a stone basin. Each drop rings out clearly, a solitary note in the silence. You close your eyes and count them. 1, 2, 3. You let the simple cadence lull you, each drip marking a moment of stillness. At the lane's end, you pause once more. The world beyond these walls stirs with distant life, but here, in this quiet corridor of time, you carry the sounds of forgotten streets within you, a gentle chorus of creaks, drips, and whispered histories that make you feel both achingly alone and deeply connected to every soul who walked here before. You step into the dimly lit corner where earthenware pots and iron cauldrons rest on low wooden shelves. The air is thick with the warm, herb-scented steam that rises from a simmering pot at your feet. You bend forward, inhaling deeply, hints of chamomile's gentle sweetness mingling with the green, slightly bitter tang of sage. On a small, well-worn table, you see neatly arranged bundles of dried herbs, poppy petals tied with twine, gentian root sliced thin and curled, valerian tucked in a folded linen. Their labels, written in careful script, promise quieted minds and eased aches. You pick up a handful of chamomile flowers, feeling their papery texture between your fingers, then scatter them into a boiling mixture of spring water. Each movement is deliberate and unhurried. You lift a wooden spoon and stir in a clockwise circle, watching the pale yellow broth swirl and catch the lantern light. Sparks of steam drift upward, carrying whispers of distant fields and sun-warmed meadows. You pause to let the flavors mingle, counting the turns of the spoon. 1, 2, 3, until the mixture seems to settle into a smooth, glowing liquid. Nearby, you find a small cup, cracked at the rim but carefully mended with wax. You ladle the infusion into it, feeling the warmth seep through the clay. Before drinking, you bring the cup to your lips and let the steam wash over your face. You close your eyes, savoring the aroma. Soft honeyed notes of poppy, the spicy edge of ginger root, all balanced by the mellow sweetness of chamomile. When you finally sip, the liquid is gentle, sliding down your throat like a warm sigh. It soothes the scratch in your chest, calms the flutter of worry in your heart. You hold the cup for a moment, as if cradling a fragile bird, then set it back on the table. Behind you, the trough outside clinks as someone refills it with fresh water. The sound is faint but grounding, a reminder that simple acts like brewing tea become anchors in a world unsteady with fear. You let the silence return, broken only by the soft hiss of the pot and your own steady breathing, carrying with it the promise of a quieter night to come. The courtyard grows hushed as twilight deepens. You tread softly toward the perimeter where a row of stone markers stands in mute testimony to those who never returned. Each marker is simple, an unadorned slab of local limestone, its surface weathered, mottled with lichen. You place a cautious hand on the closest one, feeling its cool firmness beneath your palm. In the still air, you think you hear voices, soft murmurs drifting on the wind. Are they carried from beyond? The final breaths of the departed lingering in the gloom? You lean closer, ear nearly touching stone, and listen. The sounds are faint, a breath exhaled, the rustle of fabric as someone shifts in rest, distant laughter too fragile to recall its source. You let the murmurs wash over you, like a lullaby half remembered in a dream. You step from one marker to the next. Each bears a single name crudely chiseled. Agnes, Thomas, Marceline, followed by a date scratched into the stone. The letters are uneven, the marks of hurried work in trying times. You trace the grooves with your fingertip, whispering each name aloud in the quiet. The sound of your voice feels loud in this space, as though you must tread lightly out of respect for the silence that envelopes you. A gentle breeze makes the lichen sway, brushing against your fingertips like soft feathers. It carries a hint of incense, perhaps from a nearby church, or a jar of burnt rosemary left as an offering. The fragrance drifts through the markers, weaving between them and curling around you. You inhale, letting the scent settle deep in your chest, a balm against the starkness of these stones. You sit on a low bench beneath an ancient elm whose branches stretch wide overhead. Its leaves rustle with a gentle sigh, and through the canopy you see the first stars peeking out against the darkening sky. The markers before you become silhouettes, their edges softened by distance and shadow. You lean back, closing your eyes, and imagine the stories behind each name. Kind hands that once offered bread, smiles shared in sunlight, moments of joy now muted by time. In the hush, the whispers fade, replaced by your own breath and the soft creak of wood beneath you. You let the stillness settle around your bones, feeling the weight of history and the fragile pulse of memory. Here, among the resting stones, you honor those who came before by simply listening. And in that act of remembrance, you become part of their quiet story. You step into the small cottage at the edge of the quarantine zone, its low doorway framed by a swaying strip of cured animal hide. Inside, the floorboards are dark with age, and the smell of stale air hangs in gentle layers. In one corner, a clay brazier holds smoldering embers, sending thin wisps of smoke curling upward. You approach and kneel before it, careful to leave space for the warm glow to reach every shadowed nook. In your hand, you hold a shallow bowl filled with a mixture of vinegar and crushed rosemary. You lift it slowly, tipping the liquid so it drips onto the hot coals. Immediately, a soft hiss rises as the vinegar vaporizes, and the scent of sharp tang blends with the herb's warmth. Tiny clouds of fragrant steam spill forth, swirling around a low wooden table, and the rough-hewn chairs pushed aside to make room. You rise and pick up a feather duster bound with strips of linen. With slow, deliberate strokes, you trail it along the tops of beams and rafters where cobwebs cling. Each movement sends dust motes dancing in the smoky light, glinting for a moment before settling again. You let your fingertips trail over carved wooden posts, smoothing away fine layers of grit so that the grain of the wood shows through. Near the hearth, a woven broom lies against the wall. You take it in both hands and sweep in long, measured arcs, gathering loose ash and the few stray grains of sand carried in on worn boots. Each brushstroke lifts a soft whisper of sound, a gentle reminder of care taken even in the smallest tasks. You pause at the threshold of a curtained alcove where someone has left a tiny jar of lavender and salt. You sprinkle a pinch across the stone threshold, imagining it as a quiet vow, an offering of protection, a shield woven from simple ingredients. The lavender scent drifts through the space like a promise of calm. Finally, you return to the brazier. The smoke has thickened, filling the room with a cleansing haze. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, letting each inhalation carry away the weight of what has passed. When you open them again, the air feels lighter, the room softened by the ritual you have performed. In this quiet act of purification, you honor the hope that even in the darkest times, a small flame of renewal can kindle a brighter dawn. You step outside once more, drawn toward a long stone wall that curves gently around the edge of the courtyard. Its surface is pocked and weathered, but here, iron nails driven at uneven intervals catch your eye. From each nail hangs a small wooden plaque, each inscribed with a single name. The plaques sway faintly, brushing against one another with the softest of clicks. You move closer and read the names aloud, whispering each one as though committing it to memory. Isabella, Roland, Etta. Some plaques bear dates, others only the names. The wood varies in hue, some darkened by age, others pale and nearly untouched. You lift a lighter plaque between thumb and forefinger, feeling the smooth grain beneath your touch. The name, Albert, is carved in careful script, looping letters like strands of hair. Behind you, the wind stirs a loose banner overhead, its muted colors dancing in the fading light. You turn back to the wall and choose another plaque, this one bearing no date. You hold it close and imagine the life it once marked. Perhaps a craftsman whose steady hands shaped tools, or a mother who sang lullabies beneath the same sky. You replace it gently, aligning it so it hangs straight. A hush settles around you, broken only by the distant murmur of voices beyond the gate. Here, the soft click of wood against stone becomes a lullaby, a steady beat that pulses with remembrance. You step back and observe the entire wall. Hundreds of small memorials, each one marking a life paused in time, each one a quiet testament to presence and absence. You inhale the evening air, carrying a faint hint of lavender and wood smoke. With each breath, you feel a gentle connection to the souls whose names hang before you. In this shared stillness, you understand that remembrance itself is an act of care. You leave the plaques swinging softly in the dusk, their names ringing in your mind like a gentle chant that promises they will not be forgotten. As dusk deepens into a soft violet, you join the silent procession of guards making their rounds along the perimeter. Their footsteps tread a path worn by countless nights, each step falling into a muted cadence that seems to slow time itself. You fall in behind, matching your pace to theirs, the steady click of armor and leather straps guiding your breathing into a calm, measured rhythm. The lanterns they carry cast gentle pools of light on the flagstones, illuminating narrow stretches of the wall and leaving much of the courtyard in dusky shadows. In these pockets of darkness, shapes shift and dissolve, forgotten wheelbarrows, empty crates, the silhouettes of simple wooden benches. You find comfort in the contrast, where light and dark play across sturdy timbers and cold stone, whispering of refuge even amid uncertainty. Ahead, a guard stops at a small hatchway set low into the wall. He kneels and listens for a moment, then lifts the latch with a soft click. You watch, curious. Inside, a tiny alcove holds half-filled bowls of water and scant slices of bread, offerings left by neighbors who live beyond the gate. No words are exchanged as the guard cups the water into his palm and drinks, then passes the bowl along so the next in line may partake. You step forward when it comes to you, feeling the rough wood against your fingertips, the cool water sliding over your skin, grounding you in the simple gratitude of shared necessities. A gentle gust stirs the banners above, and you watch their frayed ends dance in the lantern light before falling still. The next guard in line offers a quiet greeting, a soft nod that carries more warmth than any spoken word. You return the nod, feeling the unspoken bond of those who stand watch, guardians of a fragile peace in a world unsettled by fear. Moving on, you pause at a corner where the wall opens onto a narrow alleyway. You peer into the gloom and catch sight of a discarded cloak draped over a barrel. Its fabric is thin and patched, a silent testament to hurried departures and the kindness of those who left it behind for someone to find. You touch the coarse wool, feeling its worn warmth, and take a steadying breath, imagining the hands that once mended its tears. The guards continue their circuit, and you follow, each footstep anchoring you more firmly in this moment of guarded tranquility. With every turn of the key, every soft creak of a hatch closing, you feel the world outside held at bay, not by walls alone, but by the shared vigilance and quiet resolve of those who choose to stand watch through the night. You slip through a narrow doorway into a servant's quarters, where a single lantern hangs from a low beam, casting a gentle glow over rough-hewn floorboards. In the corner, a young maid sits on a plain stool, her back curved and shoulders heavy, as she scrubs a battered wooden chest with a coarse brush. The bristles rasp softly against the grain, each stroke stirring faded threads of straw that tumble to the floor in tiny piles. Her song is barely more than a whisper, a lullaby long forgotten by the world outside. The tune floats in the stale air, a sequence of notes that wavers, like her voice struggling to remain steady. You stand in the doorway, drawn by its fragile melody, and listen as she croons of distant fields and summer rains, of laughter around a bustling hearth before fear took hold. She pauses, dips her brush into a bucket of soapy water, and resumes her work, sudsing the surface in slow, rhythmic circles. Tiny bubbles form and pop, sending minuscule rainbows dancing across the lantern's light. You kneel beside her, gently gathering stray straw into your palm, and feel the slight dampness of the wood beneath your fingers. Her head tilts as if sensing your presence, but she does not stop. Instead, she hums the next phrase, a softer, more hopeful turn that speaks of sunrise and new beginnings. The chest before her seems to breathe under her touch, its scars smoothed by soapy water and her tender diligence. Each stroke becomes a prayer against despair, an unspoken plea for renewal. You rise and step forward, taking the brush from her hand. The bristles feel warm from her touch. With quiet reverence, you continue her work, following the arc of her song as the chest's surface begins to gleam in the lantern light. The maid leans back, closing her eyes, and allows herself a moment to rest, her song trailing off into peaceful silence. Together, in that small chamber lit by a single lantern, you and the maid share a simple ritual of care. Each sweep of the brush is a vow that kindness endures even here, and that amid so much sorrow, gentle acts can still shine like bright embers against the dark. You slip through a narrow gap between two timber-framed houses where the alley narrows to a shadowed lane. The air here feels cooler, as though the walls themselves hold back the chill of things unseen. Ahead, a thin shaft of lantern light spills from beneath a half-closed door. You pause, drawing a quiet breath, and gently push it open. Inside, the room is small and simple. A single rough table, a few stools, and a fireplace where embers glow like fading stars. A handful of figures sit in a loose circle, their faces dimly lit. They speak in hushed tones, leaning forward as they share tidbits of news, scraps of hope, fragments of prayer. Each word lands softly in the air, as if the walls themselves absorb sound to protect them from prying ears. You choose a vacant stool and lower yourself gently, careful not to disturb the dusty floorboards. A smooth stone sits at the center of the table, upon which rests a small unlit candle. Someone reaches out and lights it, the flame flickering tentatively, casting gentle shadows that dance across the faces of the gathered. The light feels precious, a fragile shield against the darkness, both outside and within. As the candle burns, one by one, each visitor shares a silent offering. A handful of dried lavender, a sprig of rosemary tied with twine, a folded scrap of parchment bearing a prayer. You watch as these small tokens are placed on the table, forming a humble altar of comfort. The combined fragrance of herbs drifts upward, weaving through the room like a quiet blessing. A woman across from you lifts her chin slightly, her eyes meeting yours in a soft acknowledgement. She holds a chipped cup of herbal tea, mint with a hint of thyme, and offers it to you. You accept with a small nod, feeling the warmth seep into your palm. You raise the cup to your lips and sip. The taste is light and soothing, a gentle balm against the lingering tension that swirls at the edges of your thoughts. Soft murmurs rise in unison as those present bow their heads in a moment of silent remembrance. You join them, closing your eyes and inhaling deeply. Behind your eyelids, you see flickers of memory, laughter from a distant festival, the gentle sway of wheat fields in the breeze, the warmth of a friend's hand in yours. In that shared stillness, you realize how these secret gatherings serve as quiet sanctuaries, places where hope, however fragile, can take root. When the candle burns low, its light reduces to a soft glow. Someone gently blows it out. The darkness that follows is gentle, not empty, a cocoon of shared presence. You rise, smoothing your cloak, and move toward the door. At the threshold, you feel the weight of the evening settle around you, the echo of whispered prayers guiding your steps. Stepping back into the narrow lane, you find that the world beyond feels a fraction less heavy. The simple gathering, the tender exchange of warmth and remembrance, lingers like a soft melody at the edges of your mind, proof that even amid despair, quiet acts of solidarity can kindle a candle's worth of light. You step beyond the barricade of rough-hewn logs and planks, entering a quiet clearing that serves as the final resting place for those taken by the plague. The ground here has been turned by many hands, trenches gouged into the earth, ready to receive the fallen. A soft hush blankets the space, broken only by the rustle of dried leaves underfoot and the distant murmur of the dying breeze. A single gravedigger works slowly at the edge of a freshly dug grave, his shovel moving methodically. Each scoop of earth rises in a gentle arc and falls with a muted thud. You watch, holding your breath, as he pauses and places the shovel aside, bending to adjust the positioning of a simple wooden coffin. The planks are plain, unvarnished, bound by rough iron straps, nothing more than a frame to hold a body, yet in their simplicity they carry profound weight. Nearby, 4 others stand in vigil. They wear worn cloaks and leather gloves, their faces obscured by cloth masks soaked in vinegar. No words pass among them. Instead, they share glances laden with sorrow and respect. You join them, keeping a gentle distance, and bow your head. Stillness stretches between you like a woven thread, binding your hearts in shared compassion. The body is lowered into the grave with care. As the coffin settles, a hush deepens. You hear the sound of wood against stone, a final murmur of life giving way to the earth's embrace. One by one, each mourner steps forward, placing a handful of soil atop the coffin. Your turn comes last. You approach, scoop a small pile of cool, damp earth with both hands, and let it sift slowly through your fingers. The soil clings to your skin, cold and fragrant with moss and clay. You pause, loosening your grip so the earth falls in a single, silent cascade. It blankets the coffin, obscuring the wood beneath, until the ground is level once more. A simple wooden cross, carved with the name of the departed, is set upright at the head of the grave. You press your palm briefly to its weathered surface, feeling the rough grain beneath your hand, a subtle assurance that each life here is not forgotten. As the mourners turn away, you linger a heartbeat longer, absorbing the stillness. The breeze stirs the leaves in a gentle sigh, carrying away the clamor of fear and replacing it with the soft, unwavering promise of remembrance. In that moment, even amid sorrow, you sense a quiet truth, that in tending to the dead, you honor the living, weaving each farewell into the tapestry of collective memory. You find yourself drawn to a small alcove at the edge of the courtyard, where a single candle burns beside a tiny stool. Resting on it is a child, no older than 5, wrapped in a threadbare blanket that smells faintly of lavender and smoke. The child's eyes, wide and still, stare into the distance with a calm that belies the world around them. You kneel softly on the straw-dusted ground, careful not to startle the quiet figure. The candle's glow casts warm, wavering patterns across the child's face, highlighting the pale skin and delicate lashes that lie motionless. No tears fall from those dark eyes. Instead, there is a solemn stillness, as though the child holds within them a silent understanding of loss and fear. A shallow bowl of thin porridge sits at the child's side, its surface ripple still. You gently take a wooden spoon and stir the oats, breaking the mirror-like sheen into gentle waves. The steam rises in soft tendrils, carrying the faint sweetness of wheat. You bring it close, inhaling the scent, and imagine the comfort of its warmth. You lift the spoon and offer a small bite. The child takes it without moving their lips, drawing the food inward with barely audible effort. You watch as the faintest tremor of relief passes over the child's face. A slow exhale of hope in a world weighed down by sorrow. Beyond the alcove, you hear muffled sobs from a distant corner, but here there is only quiet. The stillness envelops you, and you become acutely aware of each breath, your own, the child's, and the gentle flicker of the candle flame. In that hush, you realize that silence can carry its own comfort, that sometimes the absence of tears is a testament to resilience. You stroke the edge of the blanket, smoothing its folds, and whisper an unhurried promise that even if words fail and cries go unheard, you will remain a silent guardian in the night. The child's eyes meet yours for a moment, as if acknowledging that promise, before they drift closed once more. You rise, leaving the candle to burn on its own, and step away with the softest of smiles. In this encounter, you witness a different kind of strength, the quiet fortitude of a child who needs no tears to speak of courage. You step onto the soggy ground just beyond the wooden barricade, where the earth has been churned into a thick, blackish-brown sludge. Each foot sinks slightly as you move, and the wet clay clings stubbornly to your boots, weighing down every step. The air here is damp, carrying the cool breath of early evening, as though the world itself exhales a long, weary sigh. Your gaze lowers to the ground, and you notice how the mud is cracked in places, thin, fissured patterns reminiscent of ancient maps. In the veins of dried clay, you see insects frozen in time, their tiny legs outstretched, trapped forever in the slow drift of history. You kneel and brush away a small handful of mud, revealing a simple wooden token, perhaps a child's game piece, its surface worn smooth and edges rounded by years of handling. You lift the token, feeling its slight weight in your palm, and then set it gently on a flat stone at the edge of the road. It seems fitting to return this relic of play and innocence to a place of stability amid the shifting mire. You pause, inhaling the scent of wet earth, a deep chocolatey aroma that somehow feels comforting. It speaks of life beneath the surface, seeds dormant in dark soil, waiting for the warmth of spring. Continuing your path, you step and lift again, each clump of mud peeling away with a soft plop. The ground is a patchwork of footprints, deep impressions where boots pressed hard and lighter, tentative marks where bare feet once sought footing. You follow a single set of prints, small, narrow, perhaps belonging to a messenger who darted here and there, delivering news sealed with both hope and dread. Above you, the sky is a muted gray, the remaining light diffused through low clouds. A stray feather drifts down, landing softly on the mud. You glance around and spot its origin, a lone chicken wandering near a collapsed garden fence. It clucks softly, pecking at buried grains and turning the mud with gentle curiosity. You watch for a moment, enchanted by its simple persistence. With careful steps, you leave the muck behind and make your way back toward firmer ground. You pause at the threshold, wiping your boots on a tattered cloth. Even as you clean the grime away, you sense its presence lingering, a reminder that, like the clay, every trace of life and loss becomes part of the earth's quiet story. You pause at a pile of discarded clothing beside the infirmary's entrance, tattered coats, frayed tunics, and a handful of scarves, each stained with mud or ash. The garments lie in muted heaps, colors muted, charcoal grays, dusty browns, and the occasional threadbare blue. You step forward, drawn by curiosity and a quiet respect for these silent witnesses of lives interrupted. With gentle care, you lift a simple linen shirt, its fabric thin and worn. You run your fingers along a seam where someone once stitched a tear, the stitches crooked but strong, a testament to the wearer's attempt to mend, to hold on. The cloth feels soft beneath your touch, warmed by a lingering trace of the person who wore it. You press the shirt to your cheek, inhaling a faint whisper of faded linen and human scent, like the memory of a heartbeat faintly echoing in an empty hall. Next, you find a woolen cloak, its clasp decayed and pins loosened. You drape it across your shoulders for a moment, feeling its weight settle around you. The fabric is scratchy but comforting in its familiarity, the kind of cloak someone would wrap tightly against wind and rain, hoping to keep cold and sickness at bay. You shrug and let the cloak slide off your shoulders, folding it carefully back into the pile as though tucking a loved one in for a final rest. Nearby, a child's little jerkin hangs over a wooden beam. Bright blue once, you imagine, though now faded almost to gray. You lift it by the arm and swing it gently, watching the light catch the frayed edges. For a moment, you see in your mind the small figure who might have worn it, running through sunlit streets, laughter trailing behind like a ribbon. You fold the jerkin neatly, placing it atop the pile, the soft rustle of cloth marking a quiet farewell. Stepping back, you take in the collected garments. They are more than mere fabric. They are fragments of stories, pieces of daily rituals, and personal struggles. In handling them with such tenderness, you honor not just what was lost, but the delicate beauty of lives lived, however briefly. As you walk away, you carry their memory with you, woven into your thoughts like threads in a tapestry that refuses to fade. You step into the dim corridor where the town's sentinels stand watch, their armor muted bronze under the lantern's soft glow. Each guard leans against the wall in a relaxed stance, helms removed, their faces calm but vigilant. You choose an empty spot beside one of them, feeling the steady pulse of responsibility that hums through the group like a shared heartbeat. Behind you, the muffled clank of armor joins the hush of the courtyard beyond. You inhale, noticing the faint scent of oiled leather mixed with wood smoke, an aroma that has become synonymous with vigilance. The guard next to you shifts slightly, his gauntleted hands resting on the hilt of a simple sword. You sense his readiness without tension, as though the weapon is as much a comfort as it is a tool. In the minutes that stretch between patrols, conversation is sparse. A soft click of a coin in one pocket, the gentle breath drawn through a half mask, the barely audible scrape of boots against stone. Yet in this stillness, every subtle sound seems amplified, meaningful. The distant drip of water, the echo of a footstep on cobblestone, the whispered exchange of a prayer mumbled beneath fatigued breaths. You look across to another sentinel who carefully sweeps the corridor with a steady gaze. His eyes are calm. He doesn't glance around with fear, but with focused attention, as though listening to the world's smallest details. You follow his line of sight to a crack in the wall where faint moonlight filters in, a slender ribbon of silver guiding the edge of your vision, reminding you that even in darkness there is a path illuminated. Between you and the walls stands the promise of safety, however fragile. You think of those asleep in makeshift beds beyond this hallway, their dreams cradled by the unseen watchfulness of these silent guardians. You slide your hand to rest lightly on the smooth surface of the wall beside you, feeling the cool stone hold you, stabilizing your thoughts. Then, with a barely perceptible nod from the lead guide, the group rises as one. You lift your helm and settle it on your head, the soft leather lining settling comfortably against your brow. As you step forward into the next stretch of corridor, each footfall is a vow, a quiet promise to protect, to endure, and to stand steadfastly against the shadows until the first light of dawn. You pause at a narrow wooden door set into the stone wall, its surface weathered, paint peeling in long, curling strips. On the door hangs a simple charcoal sketch. 2 overlapping circles and a small dot, drawn hastily yet with intention. You kneel to study it, heart beating softly as you realize it's a sign of help, a discreet code left by someone who cares. The air here is colder, the stone edges biting subtly into your palm as you lean closer. You trace the lines of the sketch with your fingertip, each stroke a whisper of reassurance that you are not alone in this desolate place. The dot, placed imperfectly between the circles, seems to pulse with quiet energy, a tiny spark against the muted backdrop of stone and iron. You rise and gently press your ear to the door, listening to the faintest stir inside, a soft scuff of foot on wood, the muted rattle of a tin cup set down on a table. These sounds, barely perceptible, carry more warmth than any flame. You press your hand against the door, feeling its grain beneath your palm, and offer a silent greeting to whoever awaits within. A small latch clicks, and the door creaks open just enough to admit a sliver of yellow light. A pair of eyes catches yours, wide but kind. Their owner steps back, revealing a dimly lit room cluttered with jars of honey, mounds of dried lavender, and a single wooden stool. The air smells sweet and calming, a world away from the stale odor of sickness. Without a word, the stranger uncovers a clay bowl filled with warm broth and lifts it to you. You accept it, feeling its soothing heat seep into your palms. You swallow slowly, tasting soft notes of barley and thyme, each sip a gentle lullaby that eases the tight coil of anxiety in your chest. Behind you, the door closes with a soft click, cutting off the night's chill. Inside, the golden glow swells, revealing a small image of a dove painted above the hearth. It seems to hover in the flickering amber light, wings outstretched in silent benediction. You settle onto the wooden stool, holding the bowl like a precious talisman. In this hidden nook, among unspoken gestures of care and shared silence, you discover a fragile promise that even in the harshest winter of fear, a single act of kindness can become the thinnest ice upon which hope stands steady. You wander toward a narrow courtyard where the walls lean inward, creating an echo chamber of absence. Here, no one greets you, only the faint, trembling sighs of the ill, carried on the evening air like a muted lament. You pause before a low bench, its surface worn smooth by countless hours of waiting and watching. At its center lies a figure huddled against the stone, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Kneeling at a respectful distance, you watch the person's chest rise and fall in labored rhythm. No words pass their lips. The misery is contained in each breath, each small tremor. The quiet is profound, so deep that the soft scrape of straw underfoot seems intrusive, like a whispered question in an empty church. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the hush envelope you, then open them again and offer a gentle, unobtrusive presence. At the edge of the courtyard, a single lantern glows. You reach for it and carry its soft light closer, careful not to startle. The warm halo reveals tear-streaked cheeks, damp hair plastered to the nape of a neck. You notice the bowl of gruel at the figure's feet, untouched since you entered. The lack of appetite echoes the stillness, the resignation that even nourishment feels distant when sorrow sits heavy on the heart. You set the lantern down on the bench's corner, its glow shifting the shadows into gentle shapes. You remain silent, breathing in unison with the figure's slow exhalations, offering solidarity without words. In this intentional quiet, your presence becomes a balm, a reminder that to suffer is not to be entirely alone. After some time, the figure raises their gaze, meeting yours with eyes both weary and grateful. They offer you the bowl of gruel, a tentative gesture of trust. You accept, nodding, then drink deeply, letting the warmth slide down your throat. In that shared act, no words exchanged, only the simple communion of nourishment and light. You find that silence, when permeated by empathy, can become a powerful companion in the darkest moments. You step through a low-arched doorway into the little chapel at the heart of the settlement. The air here feels different, cooler and redolent with the faint, smoky sweetness of beeswax. Along narrow wooden pews, small puddles of hardened wax have spilled over time, each drip frozen like a golden tear. Your footfalls are hushed against the worn stone floor, as though even the ground respects the quiet reverence of this place. Candles of varying heights stand atop simple iron sconces in the ancient altar. Some burn bright, their flames steady, while others have dwindled to glowing embers that sputter against the draft. You move slowly between them, pausing to breathe in the combination of honeyed wax, resin, and a faint hint of old parchment, lingering traces of prayers once written and whispered here. At the front, wooden kneelers bear the worn imprints of bowed heads. You kneel on one, feeling the smooth, cool wood beneath your knees, and place your hands upon the folded prayer rest. Your fingertips brush an engraved cross, its lines softened by centuries of touch. You close your eyes, and in the hush, you can almost hear the gentle rustle of vestments and the distant murmur of Latin invocations. A single beam of fading daylight filters through a narrow stained glass window high above, casting colored shapes onto the dusty air. Muted reds, deep blues, and pale greens forming a silent tapestry on the walls. You tilt your head slightly, letting the pattern dance across your closed eyelids, a kaleidoscope of grace moving with the soft sway of candle flames. Rising, you move to the altar and light a small taper from one of the taller candles. You hold it for a moment, feeling the warmth that seems to pulse like a quiet heartbeat. Then, with unhurried care, you place the new candle into an empty sconce, igniting its wick and sending a fresh glow into the gathering dusk. You step back and watch as the circle of light expands, filling the chapel with gentle illumination. The smoky scent of wax intensifies, offering a soothing cloak against the world outside. In this sacred hush, you feel the boundaries of fear recede, replaced by the soft assurance that here, in the low hum of candlelight and stone, a gentle sanctuary endures. You slip through a narrow doorway into what once served as the scriptorium, a small chamber lined with wooden shelves, each laden with scrolls and bound tomes. A single flickering lamp hangs from a rope in the center of the low-beamed ceiling, its light casting long, wavering shadows across the room. Dust motes drift in the glow, floating like tiny spirits in the hush. A long, narrow table occupies the middle of the space. Its surface is scarred with ink stains and the occasional burn mark from a stray candle. You run your fingertips along the edge, feeling the smooth wear left by countless hands. On the table lies an open manuscript, its pages yellowed and fragile. The script is elegant, looping letters penned in dark brown ink. An illustration of creeping vines borders the text, each leaf rendered in delicate detail. You kneel beside the table, careful not to disturb the other volumes piled at one end. You trace the lines of text with a fingertip, watching the letters dance beneath your touch. The words speak of distant kingdoms and forgotten rights. Yet it is the quiet presence of the scribe you imagine most vividly. Hunched shoulders bent over parchment, the soft scrape of quill on animal skin, the faint hiss of heated wax sealing a newly finished page. A gentle breeze stirs from a narrow window high in the wall, carrying with it the scent of night-blooming flowers from the courtyard below. You tilt your head back and breathe it in, letting the cool floral aroma mingle with the scent of aged paper and oak. It feels as though the very air here honors knowledge, preserving each thought as a precious artifact. You gather up a small pile of loose sheets tied with a faded ribbon. The ribbon's color is gone, once vibrant red, now the pale pink of flushed clay. You lift the bundle to your face, inhaling the mingled fragrances of ink, parchment, and the faintest trace of rosewater once used to soften the fibers. With slow care, you untie the ribbon and let the sheets fan across the table, a silent offering of stories waiting to be read. The lamp's flame flickers, and you sense the room lean into the night stillness. Here, among these hushed volumes, you understand that even when voices fall silent, the written word carries on a gentle conversation. Each page holds a piece of someone's soul, and in the act of reading, you become part of an unbroken lineage, a guardian of whispers preserved in ink and silence. You step out of the scriptorium and into the cloistered walkway that circles the chapel. The air here shifts, cool and slightly damp, as though it carries whispers of candle smoke and ancient prayers. The stone arches overhead drip with condensation, leaving tiny rivulets on your fingertips when you trace their curves. Along the walkway, wooden doors stand closed, each leading to a priest's cell. You pause at the first, noticing the simple cross carved above its lintel. The wood is pale and unadorned, worn smooth by hands that once opened and closed it in daily devotion. You press your palm against the door and feel its faint warmth, as if someone's presence lingers just beyond. Tentatively, you push the door open. Inside, the cell is austere, a narrow cot draped with a thin wool blanket, a small wooden desk with an unlit lantern, and a single shelf holding a well-worn prayer book. The pages of the book are thumbed and softened, edges darkened by soot and use. You pick it up and turn the cover. Inside, the margin of one page bears a note in neat script. For the lost, take this light. You close the book gently and set it aside, respecting the writer's silent plea. Stepping back, you continue down the corridor. The next door yields a different scene, empty floorboards and an overturned stool. A thick layer of dust covers a small basin in the corner, and the faint smell of incense still clings to the air. Whoever lived here left in haste, leaving behind the tools of prayer and hospitality. At the third cell, you find a candle stub lowered into a pool of hardened wax. Its wick is blackened, extinguished long ago. You kneel and brush away stray bits of wax, uncovering an inscription on the stone floor. footprints leading toward the threshold as though the occupant stepped out and never returned. You rise and continue, the silence growing heavier with each empty room. The final cell stands open, its door removed entirely. Inside, a single garment hangs from a nail, a worn tabard bearing the subtle embroidery of a dove. The fabric is faded, but the dove's wings remain discernible, a quiet emblem of peace abandoned. You pause in the center of the cloister, breathing in the mingled scents of damp stone and lingering smoke. The vanished presence of the clergy settles around you like a soft shroud, their routines paused in time. And yet, beneath the emptiness, you sense a pulse of devotion that has not been extinguished, echoing in the steps that once crossed these stones, in the prayers unspoken, in the small act of leaving a light behind for the lost. In honoring their absence, you carry forward the gentle flame of faith they tended here. You return to the apothecary's quiet corner as the late afternoon light softens, settling onto wooden shelves lined with glass jars. On a low work table, you find two simple bundles tied with twine, one of glossy laurel leaves, the other of needle-like rosemary sprigs. The air here is still, touched by the faint aroma of herbs steeping in warm water. Gently, you untie the bundle of laurel, releasing a subtle, spicy scent that drifts upward like a whispered promise. You hold a few leaves between your fingers, feeling the stiff texture and delicate veins. Each leaf seems to hold the memory of a sunlit grove where breezes once stirred the pale green shoots. Next, you unwrap the rosemary. Its slender sprigs are cool and sharp, giving off a resinous, pine-like fragrance that awakens your senses. You combine the two in a shallow wooden bowl and carry it to an iron kettle, resting over gentle coals. The fire's glow is soft, warming your face with a comforting haze. You pour cool spring water into the kettle, listening to it pool and swirl around the herbs. Then you stir the mixture with a narrow wooden spoon, tracing slow circles as the leaves bob beneath the surface. Tiny bubbles gather at the edges, signaling the water's slow heat. As the liquid warms, you lean forward to inhale deeply. The fragrances mingle, laurel's warmth rounding into rosemary's bright pepperiness, creating a balanced aroma that feels both grounding and clarifying. You let the kettle hiss quietly as steam curls upward, carrying hints of forest undergrowth and distant mountains. When the infusion reaches a gentle simmer, you lift the kettle from the coals and set it upon a trivet. You allow the mixture to rest, watching the leaves settle like soft driftwood in a tranquil pool. The room grows hushed, broken only by the soft crackle of dying embers. You pour the golden-green decoction into a small clay cup and hold it in your hands, feeling its warmth seep into your palms. Bringing it to your lips, you sip slowly. The flavor unfolds gently. Tart laurel, resinous rosemary, a subtle hint of earthiness that lingers at the back of your throat. With each taste, you feel the world slow down. The steady pull of the fire's glow, the soft murmur of steam, the rhythmic rise and fall of your breath. All blend into a quiet ritual. In this simple act of brewing, you honor the gentle power of nature's gifts and the comfort they bring to weary souls. You wake to the soft patter of dawn spilling through a pair of narrow wooden shutters. They stand half-closed, their louvers worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. You rise from the simple straw pallet beneath you and move toward the window, your steps quiet on the hard-packed earth floor. As you reach out and gently shift one shutter, slivers of pale light weave across the room in thin, golden ribbons. They dance along the rough-hewn beams overhead and trace glowing lines on the wall, like filaments of hope stretching into the dimness. You pause, letting the slow warmth seep into your skin, a balm against the lingering chill of the night. Outside, the courtyard awakens softly. A lone dove flutters to a broken ledge and coos in greeting, its note clear and unhurried. You press your palm to the shutter's edge, feeling the warmth radiate from the sunlit side as though the light itself were a living thing reaching inward to share its gentle glow. You turn to a small wooden desk set beneath the window. On it rests a chipped cup of cold porridge. Last night's rations you scarcely tasted when sleep overtook you. You lift the cup, placing it in the slanted light, and watch as the spoon's shadow stretches long and slender across the grain of the wood. Taking up the spoon, you stir slowly, the metal touching the cup's rim with a soft, ringing clarity that seems to echo in the hushed room. Each spoonful of porridge tastes of barley and a hint of yesterday's sweetness, its warmth growing with every bite. Your breath puffs in little clouds as you eat, each exhale a quiet reminder of presence and life. Outside, the light intensifies, shifting from pale gold to gentle amber, casting every surface in a soothing glow. When you finish, you set the empty cup back on the desk, feeling the smooth wood beneath your fingertips. You pause a moment, breathing deeply, and let the morning light fill you, its calm certainty promising that even after the darkest night, the world can awaken again, renewed by the simplest grace of a new day. You step into a narrow lane framed by half-timbered houses, their upper stories projecting over the street like silent sentries. The sun has climbed higher, but the alley remains in gentle shadow, as though the buildings themselves conspire to protect this quiet avenue from the bustle beyond. Beneath your boots, the cobblestones are smoothed by years of foot traffic, each stone a testament to countless stories, long since faded. Ahead, you notice a half-open window on the second floor of one house. From within drifts a faint melody, soft singing, breathy and half-remembered, like a lullaby sung long ago. You pause, tilting your head to catch the words. They come in gentle fragments. Rest, dear heart, close your eyes. Morning comes. The voice is thin, almost ethereal, as if carried from a dream, or the whisper of a breeze through lace curtains. You lean closer, careful not to disturb the hush, and trace the window's worn sill with a fingertip. The wood here is darkened by age and smoke, its grain etched with fine lines where countless palms have rested. You imagine the singer, perhaps a widow recalling a happier time, or an elderly neighbor offering comfort to her own restless thoughts. The melody wavers, then settles into a single sustained note before fading into silence. For a moment, the alley feels suspended, held in the breath between two heartbeats. You inhale deeply, drawing in the scent of warmed stone and distant lilac blossoms carried on the breeze. With your mind attuned to that delicate song, you close your eyes, allowing the memory of its rhythm to weave through your thoughts like a gentle thread. As the tune dissolves, you open your eyes and continue down the lane. Each house you pass seems to exhale softly, as though releasing its own quiet memory. A half-uttered prayer, the rustle of a page turned, the soft creak of a rocking chair on an empty porch. You carry these echoes with you, threading them together into a tapestry of voices that once filled these walls. At the lane's end, you pause once more. The world beyond begins to stir with the hum of everyday life, but here, in this narrow corridor, you hold the lingering resonance of those long-gone singers. Their melodies remind you that even when voices fall silent, their echoes remain, gentle currents beneath the surface, waiting to be heard by those who listen with patience and care. You return to the heart of the enclosure just as shadows lengthen across the courtyard. The familiar clink of iron hinges accompanies the gates closing behind you, sealing the world outside with a soft finality. Inside, the hush of midday gives way to a gentle murmur of activity. Nothing urgent, but a steady rhythm of small tasks sustained by necessity and ritual. Along one wall, a line of wooden buckets stands ready. You pick up the first and carry it to the well's edge, lowering and drawing water with deliberate slowness. Each bucketful is measured by the steadiness of your hand, the smooth motion of the rope winding around the spindle. You pour the water into a shallow basin on a low bench where soapy cloths await their turn, the surface glinting in the fading light. Nearby, two caregivers sit side by side, dividing handfuls of dried herbs into small satchels. Their fingers move in slow unison, sage, thyme, lavender, each chosen for its whispered promise of comfort. The satchels are tied with twine and placed in baskets ready to be delivered to those who cannot rest. You pause to take one from their pile and inhale its delicate perfume before tucking it gently into your cloak. Across the courtyard, a solitary bell hangs from a curved iron post. You approach and raise your hand to the rope. With a single muted tug, the bell's tone ripples outward, soft and rounded, neither sharp nor urgent. You let it fade completely before stepping back, marking the hour without haste, as though breathing life into the passing of time itself. In a shady corner, a small group gathers to fold clean linens. You join them, feeling the crisp cotton slip between your fingers. Each fold is precise, a quiet homage to order and care. As you stack the neatly folded piles, you sense the gentle unity in shared labor. Individual threads woven together to form a larger pattern of compassion. Finally, you make your way to the alembic in the apothecary's alcove. The copper coils glint in the mellow light as you check the small flame beneath, adjusting its glow until vapor curls from the spout in a lazy stream. You catch a crystal vial, positioning it to collect the distillate, a few drops destined for fevered brows or aching joints. As twilight deepens, the courtyard settles once more into stillness. You place each returned bucket, each herb-filled sachet, each folded linen, and each captured drop back into its place. In the repetition of these gentle tasks, you find a calm affirmation. That care, enacted through the simple unfolding of daily routine, becomes a balm for weary souls, even amid the heavy hush of quarantine. The courtyard lies hushed under a veil of early evening mist. You choose a path along the edge of the outer wall, where the cobblestones narrow into a trodden walkway. Each step echoes gently, the soft tap of leather soles sounding like distant raindrops before a coming storm. There is no one else beside you, only the gentle chorus of your own measured breathing. You walk slowly, hands clasped behind your back, fingers brushing the cool stone rail that lines the path. The railing surface is worn smooth by countless hands seeking comfort in its solidity. Tiny flecks of pale lichen cling to the mortar like stars scattered across an ancient sky. You pause to trace one cluster of lichen, marveling at the fragile life persisting in such a quiet corner. Above, the branches of a weeping willow sway in the mist, its long tendrils brushing the cobbles as though seeking to rest on the earth itself. The willow's whispering leaves stir a soft rustle, a companion to your solitary steps. You raise your gaze and observe how the mist weaves between the tree's limbs, transforming each droplet into a jewel hung from a delicate thread. Further along, you find a scattered handful of smooth river pebbles left there by children before the walls closed. You stoop and gather 3 in your palm, one pale gray, one flecked with white, and one a rich dusky brown. Each pebble is cool and heavy, grounding you in the simple weight of its presence. You press your hand to your chest for a moment, feeling the stone's solidity echoing in your pulse. You continue on, placing the pebbles back on a low step, arranging them side by side as though offering them to the whispered memory of those who left them. The act is small, yet in the quiet it feels profound, a silent gesture of connection across the gulf of time. As you reach the end of the path, the mist begins to thin, revealing the silhouettes of distant rooftops lit by a pale, ghostly glow. You breathe in the cool air one last time, letting the hush of solitude settle around you like a soft shawl. In this moment, each step deliberate, each breath unhurried, you embrace the gentle power of walking alone, a quiet ritual that carries you gently through the stillness, reminding you that even in isolation, there is a shared current of life flowing beneath your feet. You make your way back to the cluster of graves beyond the barricade, where the final coffin lies half-sealed beneath a pale twilight sky. The wooden lid waits, its surface unvarnished and rough, threaded through with a single row of iron nails. You pause before the slab, your breath steady as you reach for the first nail. A stout, hand-forged piece, shaped by the blacksmith's careful hammer. Your fingers curl around the cool metal. You feel its subtle ridges, the slight imperfection where the iron cooled against the anvil. In your other hand rests a small hammer, its head worn smooth by countless strikes. You set the coffin lid into place and align the first nail, tapping it once with measured care. The thud is soft, but it resonates in the hush like the close of a quiet door. One by one, you lift each nail and guide it through the wood, each tap deliberate. 1, 2, 3, until the nails stand proud of the grain. The hammer's weight is reassuring, each drop sealing in memory, sorrow, and love. You pause after the penultimate nail, leaning forward to inhale the mingled scents. Fresh-cut wood, damp earth, and a faint hint of lavender from the sachet placed earlier as a final gift. Finally, you lift the last nail. Your heart beats in unison with the hammer's rise and fall. You strike once, driving the nail flush, and then allow the hammer to rest against your palm. The coffin is closed. The labor is complete, yet the act feels less like an ending and more like a quiet promise kept. You step back, brushing a speck of earth from your sleeve, and observe the final resting place, its surface unmarred, sealed with gentle intention. Above, stars emerge in the deepening sky, their distant light offering a cool reassurance. In this moment of stillness, you recognize that though lives may be sealed beneath wooden lids, the care with which they were laid to rest carries forward, echoing in every gentle act of remembrance. You kneel on the soft grass beside the newly sealed grave, the dusk air growing cool against your skin. In your hands, you hold a small bundle of dried lavender and rosemary, tied with a thin strand of linen. The gentle scent rises in a tender swirl, mingling with the earthy fragrance of turned soil and dewy grass. You rest the bundle lightly atop the wooden cross, letting its weight press down like a whispered benediction. Then, with a slow, steady breath, you close your eyes. In the hush of evening, you offer a silent prayer, not one of grand words or imploring cries, but a soft invocation of peace and rest. You speak only in your heart, letting each syllable drift like a feather on the breeze. Your lips move imperceptibly as you give thanks for the life now stilled, for each heartbeat that once danced within these walls, for each smile that warmed a stranger's face, for each gentle touch that offered comfort. You ask only that the burdens of fear and pain be lifted, and that in this final rest, grace may find its home. A cool wind stirs the lavender, setting tiny blossoms free. They drift down like pale confetti, landing on the dark wood and scattering across the soil. You reach out to catch one in your palm, feeling the fragile petal between your fingertips, a delicate reminder that beauty persists even in parting. When the blossoms have settled, you stand, brushing grass from your knees. You look once more at the grave, the simple cross, the bundle of herbs, the petal-dusted earth. You offer one last bow of the head, an unspoken promise to remember. As you turn to leave, the wind carries a soft rustle through the nearby trees, as if in gentle reply, a voice of nature joining in your farewell. With each step back toward the courtyard, you carry the quiet grace of this prayer within you. In the stillness that follows, you sense that every gentle thought, every whispered word of comfort, becomes part of an enduring tapestry, woven through time, bound by memory, and held fast by the soft strength of compassion. The twilight air grows still as you prepare for the small private procession. You stand at the head of the narrow path, leading from the gravesite back toward the courtyard, your shoulders squared and steps measured. In front of you lies a simple bier, a wooden frame draped with a dark woolen cloth, folded neat at the edges as though to honor the shape beneath. One by one, you lift the bier with gentle care, feeling the even weight balanced between your companions. No words are spoken. Each breath and movement falls into the hush that has settled upon the evening. The only sound is the soft thud of the bier's wooden legs brushing against the uneven earth, as if the ground itself offers a muted drumbeat to guide your steps. You lead the procession along the narrow lane. Lanterns carried at your sides cast warm halos of light, illuminating rough stone walls and casting long, comforting shadows behind you. The banners overhead hang motionless, their colors muted in the dim glow. You lift your chin slightly, letting the candlelight catch the edge of the bier's cloth, revealing its deep hue, a solemn embrace for the one who rests beneath. As you move, the lantern-bearers adjust their pace to keep the glow steady, their steps in near-perfect unison with yours. The air carries a soft chill, and you pull your cloak tighter, mindful of the delicate balance between warmth and the cool breath of night. Despite the gravity of the act, you feel a gentle serenity in the rhythm of the walk, each step a slow meditation on loss and remembrance. The procession turns into the courtyard. There, the hush deepens, as if the very air pauses to honor the passage. The lantern's glow spreads across familiar stone pathways, benches, and silent wells. You guide the bier past the silent rows of makeshift beds and empty doorways, each a reminder of lives touched by the same sorrow. At the courtyard's center, you pause. The bier is lowered with reverent care onto a simple platform near the hearth, now cold and unused for the night. Lanterns are set around it, their light converging into a gentle pool that seems to cradle the bier in a soft halo. You step back, hands folded, and let the stillness envelop you. In this unhurried moment, you sense the communal heartbeat of compassion, the shared responsibility to bear witness, to carry memory forward. The procession has ended, but its quiet grace lingers, a testament that even in the deepest sorrow, there is dignity in movement and solace in the gentle procession of caring hearts. You wander toward a low stone ledge where a broken clay jug lies half buried in soft earth. Its once graceful curves are fractured, shards splayed outward like silent witnesses to a moment of abrupt change. You pause, struck by the fragile poetry of something broken, yet still whole in its purpose of memory. Kneeling, you brush away loose soil to reveal the jug's mottled surface, etched with the fingerprints of hurried hands that shaped it long ago. The rim is jagged, an open wound in the clay, but within its cavernous belly you sense an invitation to listen. From your pouch you draw a handful of small, smooth river stones, each one worn by water, rounded by time. Gently, you place the first pebble inside the jug. It lands with a muted click, and for a fleeting moment, the jug echoes, a soft bell-like chime that resonates faintly in the hush. You add another and another until 5 stones lie nestled within the vessel's fractured interior. You lift the jug to your ear and tilt it ever so slightly, feeling the stones shift and tap against the clay. The sound is delicate, a tiny chorus of notes that rise and fade with each motion like raindrops falling on a distant rooftop. You set the jug back on its ledge and stroke its cracked surface, tracing the path of each split as if mapping a constellation. The moonlight, slipping in through a gap overhead, washes the ledge in silver. Each shard catches the light, its edge glowing softly against the dark stone. In this quiet interplay of shadow and glow, the jug seems less an object of loss and more a vessel of transformation, its brokenness giving voice to a new and haunting melody. As a breeze stirs the tall grasses at the courtyard's edge, the jug's song blends with the night's chorus. A gentle rustle of leaves, the soft call of an owl, the distant drip of water from a cracked gutter. You close your eyes, letting each sound weave into a tapestry of stillness and wonder. When you finally rise, you leave the jug where it sings its silent hymn. It stands as a testament to resilience, proof that even in shards, beauty endures, and that in the heart of what is broken, a tender song of hope can still be heard. You step through the heavy wooden gate that seals you from the courtyard's hush and find yourself on a narrow path leading away from the quarantine. The moonlight spills gently across the uneven cobblestones, casting long silver shadows that guide your footsteps. Each footfall feels deliberate, as though you're marking time in a world that has slowed to a near whisper. Your cloak rustles softly with each step, the fabric catching on stray pebbles and brushing against the low stone walls that flank the lane. These walls have stood for generations, their rough surfaces etched by countless seasons of wind and rain. You reach out and trail your fingertips along the cool stone, feeling the indentations left by travelers long gone. Above, the sky is a deep indigo, scattered with pale stars that gleam like distant lanterns. A breeze carries the muted scent of night-blooming jasmine from a hidden garden just beyond the wall. You inhale, letting the sweet aroma settle in your lungs, a gentle reminder that life endures in quiet corners, even amid so much loss. Ahead, solitary lanterns hang from wrought iron hooks, their flames flickering against the darkness. You pass each one, and their soft glow seems to nod in greeting before you move on. The path curves, revealing glimpses of shuttered windows and empty doorways, each one a silent sentinel to the stories that once unfolded here. Your thoughts drift to those you left behind, the hush of the infirmary, the quiet vigil at the graves, the whispered prayers in the chapel. You carry their echoes within you, like embers glowing in a hearth long after the fire has died. With every step, you feel those memories settle deeper, grounding you in the shared humanity that binds the living and the departed. As the road stretches on, you notice a small cluster of wildflowers growing between the stones. Pale blue harebells, resilient and bright in the faint starlight. You pause to kneel and gently touch their delicate petals. They quiver under your fingertips, but they do not break. In that moment, you sense a silent kinship, a truth that even in solitude, you are connected to every living thing that perseveres. Rising, you continue down the lane, each footstep weaving a steady rhythm of presence. The night holds you in its calm embrace, and as you walk on, you carry forward the gentle serenity of this solitary journey, an unspoken vow that no matter how far you travel, the quiet strength you have witnessed here will guide you home. The narrow path gradually dips and rises as you follow the quiet road toward the village beyond the walls. In the darkness, faint glimmers of light appear, small clusters of candles in windows or lanterns placed on low fences. Their flickering flames cast soft, roving patterns on the cobbles like gentle footprints of warmth in the cool night. You draw nearer and see that each light marks a home where someone still tends to the memory of those lost. A single taper in a windowsill, perhaps a widow's vigil for her family. A circle of tiny lanterns on a gatepost, a neighbor's quiet signal of solidarity. You pause at one such gate where 5 candles stand in a careful row, their glass cases speckled with ash from earlier breezes. Leaning down, you brush away a few grains of soot, and the candle's glow grows steadier. You notice faint smudges on the gate's wood, handprints traced in grief and remembrance. You place your palm beside them, feeling the grain's warmth, then stand and bow your head in silent respect. A soft breeze stirs, sending the flames into a gentle dance. The dancing light spills across the lane, illuminating a scattering of fallen petals, crimson and ivory, from a nearby rose bush. You gather a few in your hand and let them drift onto the ground before the candles, their colors vivid against the dark stones. Continuing onward, you pass another gate, where a small bowl of water stands on a bench, its surface still except for a single ripple from a drifting leaf. The lantern above casts a golden sheen on the water, transforming it into a mirror reflecting the soft glow of distant windows. You lean over and dip your finger into the water, letting a drop slip back into the bowl. The ripples spread outward, echoing the simple acts of care that have marked this as a place of shared compassion. As you walk on, the lights grow fewer, but each one carries the same message. You are not alone. Even in the depths of night, the ashen trail of candlelight guides weary souls home, one gentle flame at a time. The late hour wraps the lane in hushed stillness as you step past the last fading candlelight. Ahead, a narrow archway opens onto a small garden courtyard. You pause beneath the arch, feeling the smooth stone lintel against your palm. Above, dark branches weave against the star-dappled sky, and in the soft shadows you sense a quiet pulse, as though this hidden space holds its own breath. You cross the threshold and find yourself surrounded by low hedges and a scattering of white night-blooming flowers. Their petals open like pale moons, each blossom exhaling a heady perfume that drifts on the air. You close your eyes and inhale, letting the scent flood your senses. A delicate blend of jasmine, honeysuckle, and something green and leafy, the promise of morning to come. A gentle breeze stirs the blossoms, setting them to dance on their slender stalks. The movement is subtle, yet in the hushed darkness, each sway feels profound, like a secret conversation between flower and wind. You step forward, fingertips brushing against cool petals, feeling the soft down of each bloom graze your skin. In that touch, you discover an unspoken tenderness, the flowers offering their brief beauty in spite of the night's wait. At the center of the courtyard, a small stone basin collects rainwater from a carved spout shaped like an owl's head. You approach and kneel beside it, watching the water's surface ripple as a stray breeze kisses its stillness. You dip your hand into the basin, lifting a trembling scoop of water. The liquid is cool and clear, carrying the faintest reflections of moonlight. You allow it to run through your fingers, tracing its path back to the basin in a silver ribbon. Rising, you turn to face the archway. The breeze follows, rustling your cloak and carrying petals of fallen flowers at your feet. Each petal drifts across the stones, leaving a pale trail behind. You watch them float until they settle in the shallow basin, bobbing gently on the water's surface. You step back beneath the arch, pausing once more to feel the breeze brush your hair. It murmurs through the courtyard, a soft exhale that seems to carry away the last whisper of tension. In this quiet interlude, cradled by petals and moonlight, you sense that even the faintest breath of nature can offer solace, guiding you gently onward through the night. You emerge through the small gate at the edge of the courtyard, stepping onto a narrow rise overlooked by low, weathered ramparts. Here, the night's hush yields to the faintest murmur of dawn. The air feels different, cooler, yet infused with a soft warmth that heralds the coming sun. You pause on the cobblestones, letting the world brighten around you like a slowly opening blossom. Before you stretches a panorama of rooftops and distant hills, their silhouettes still wrapped in the pale violet of early morning. Above them, the sky begins to shift. Where darkness once reigned, bands of blush, pink, and tender gold now sweep across the horizon. Each breath you draw carries a hint of freshness, the scent of dew-laden grass mingled with the faint note of wild thyme drifting on the breeze. Beneath your feet, cobbles glimmer with moisture from last night's mist, each stone reflecting the sky's evolving palette. You lean forward to touch one, feeling its cool, damp surface. Your fingertips catch a bead of dew that trembles before falling, and in that tiny drop, you see the promise of a new day distilled to its purest form. Slowly, you tilt your gaze upward as a single golden ray slips over the farthest roofline. It strikes a weathered chimney pot, and for a moment it glows like molten copper. Then the light spreads, brushing the tops of slate tiles, highlighting crumbling mortar, and tracing the outlines of wooden shutters still closed against the cold. You stand in silent awe as the sun's edge creeps along every ridge and corner, enlivening the once shadowed world with its gentle caress. A soft chorus of birds greets the light, wrens, sparrows, and a lone lark whose high trills weave through the air like threads of melody. Their song carries across the open fields beyond the walls, echoing in your chest, lifting the lingering weight of night. You take a step forward, threading your fingers through the wrought iron bars of the gate, and feel its chill give way to warmth as the sun's rays spill through. In this moment, the boundary between night and day feels like a threshold of hope. You inhale deeply, letting the warmth sink into your bones and the birdsong fill your mind. Each breath becomes a quiet affirmation that even after the darkest hours, light will return. With one last backward glance at the courtyard, now bathed in early light, you turn toward the breaking dawn, carrying within you the memory of every gentle act, every whispered prayer, and every fragile spark of humanity that guided you here. You pause at the ferry crossing just beyond the city gate, where a single wooden boat rocks gently against a tethered rope. The soft ripple of water against its hull blends with the distant crow of a rooster heralding the new day. You step aboard, each movement careful and deliberate, mindful of the boat's creaking timbers and the cool weight of dawn in the air. The ferryman stands at the stern, his silhouette outlined against the rosy sky. He offers you the oar with a simple nod. You grasp it, the pale wood smooth and slightly damp, and settle yourself on the worn plank that serves as a bench. The first stroke sends the boat gliding forward, leaving a V-shaped wake that shimmers in the morning light. As the vessel drifts into the river's quiet embrace, you lean back and breathe deeply, letting the rhythmic splash of oar on water lull your thoughts. Across the bank, the cherry trees line the shore, their blossoms still clinging to the branches like pale memories of spring. Petals drift down and land on the water's surface, setting a path of soft pink that leads into the distance. You close your eyes for a moment and listen. The gentle lapping of water against wood, the soft creaking of the oarlock, the faint hum of the town awakening behind you. Each sound is a note in a fragile symphony, a serenade to the night you have left behind and the promise of day ahead. The ferryman's steady rowing guides you beneath an old stone archway, a relic of a bridge long since fallen into ruin. Moss grows between its stones, and tendrils of ivy cling to its sides, yet it stands firm, a silent guardian of countless crossings. You pass underneath, feeling the cool shadow give way to warmth as you emerge on the other side. The boat's bow nudges the far bank, and you rise, stretching limbs stiff from the night's vigil. You step onto the muddy shore, leaving a single footprint that the water quickly washes away. You hand the oar back to the ferryman, offering a soft "thank you" carried on the morning breeze. Turning toward the road that winds into the waking countryside, you pause to look back one last time. The boat drifts away, the archway receding, and the courtyard beyond the walls lies hidden once more. You carry with you the echoes of that place, the whispered prayers, the soft crackle of candlelight, the hush of shared sorrow and solace. With a gentle exhale, you step forward into the new day. Each footfall on the dew-damp earth feels like a farewell whispered on the wind, a quiet benediction to memory, compassion, and the enduring light that guides you home.